The Straw King, Chapter 6. The lion leapt forward with a roar. "Wait!" the Scarecrow cried out. The lion twisted in midair and dropped back on his feet. Ginger's soldiers grinned at them over the terrified Munchkin. She grabbed a hunk of the Munchkin's hair and jerked her head backward, her knife pressing so deeply into the girl's throat that a line of blood welled up beneath it. The Munchkin's eyes were huge with fear. "Welcome, your Highness," the soldier sneered. "Do you like what we've done with the place? Anyone not loyal to the new queen will learn the cost of disobedience immediately." "Let the girl go," the Scarecrow said firmly. "Your quarrel is with me. You've already shed enough blood for one day." Ginger's soldier laughed. "Spoken like a true fool," she snarled. "Welcome to the new Oz." With one swift motion, she drew her knife across Hibiscus's throat. The Scarecrow cried out in horror as blood spurted from the gaping crescent wound. The soldier let the girl's body go. Her body teetered ghoulishly for a second, and then fell to the ground with a sick thud. "Hibiscus Lemon!" Her name escaped its clothed lips, which trembled with rage and sadness all at once. For a split second, Scarecrow wished that he had never known Hibiscus's name, that he did not know a thing about her. Maybe that would have made looking at her lifeless form a little easier. But a second later, he was glad that he had known at least that. Out of the corner of his eyes, he could see the lion was already leaping forward with a snarl, his claws extended. Ginger's soldier whirled to meet him, but he knocked the knife out of her hand easily with one swipe of his huge paw. She lunged at him with her bare fists, her face totally without fear. But even she was no match for the lion. He threw her to the ground and stood over her with a paw upraised. "Don't hurt her," the Scarecrow cried out, but it was too late. Ginger's soldier spat in the lion's face, and with a terrible roar, he brought his huge paw on her skull, snapping her neck. Everything seemed to stand still for a long second. The lion stared down at his victim, panting. The Scarecrow realized his mouth was wide open, and he was watching the sinister tableau with his hands balled in fists. He could see that strange, sinister serpentine thing stirring in the back of his sawdust brain, and the lion's tail was lashing furiously as though it were possessed. The lion ripped out the soldier's throat, spraying them both with blood. "What are you doing?" Scare cried, coming to his senses. The lion stopped mid-roar, his eyes crazed and his mouth dripping gore. I don't know," he gasped. The lion slumped backward, and all the rage seemed to drain out of him into the blood-soaked ground. "A new Oz, indeed," the Scarecrow said quietly. The lion stepped away from the ginger soldier, as if the ground burnt his paws, leaving her body next to Hibiscus Lemon's in the dirt. "What happened just now?" the Scarecrow asked, staring down at the stranger who seemed to have taken the place of his oldest friend. "We were too late to save the girl," the lion said hoarsely, not meeting his eyes. That wasn't what the Scarecrow had meant. They both knew it. Without another word, the lion turned and stepped back into the path, and the Scarecrow followed. From time to time, they heard distant cries and the sounds of gunshots. More of Ginger's soldiers, the Scarecrow guessed grimly, taking care of the disloyal. But for now, there was nothing they could do. They continued walking in silence. The Scarecrow could feel its sawdust brain churning, trying to process what had happened and what would happen next. But it was just too much for him to comprehend. "The Scarecrow gave us these gifts, but he never told us how to use them," Scare said finally. At first, he thought the lion was ignoring him, but after a minute, his friend sighed. "It's better not to think about it too much." "But that's all I know how to do," the Scarecrow protested. The lion didn't answer. He wondered if his learning curve would be as fast as the lion's evidently had been, and if he'd figured out the solution in time to save Oz from Ginger, and if the wizard's gifts meant they'd have to become murderers. How were they any better than the would-be queen? Ordinarily, he would have enjoyed the trip to the lion's country. He hadn't traveled since Dorothy had rescued him from his post in the farmer's field and gone with him to find the wizard, and before he met Dorothy, he had never traveled at all. The path took them along a roaring brook that flowed with lavender-scented water. Translucent, jewel-bright fish glinted in the current like bits of glass. They crossed a broad meadow of multicolored flowers that undulated like waves, even though there was no breeze. The snow-topped mountains sparkled in the distance, and butterflies the size of the lion's head flapped lazily past them. But the Scarecrow barely noticed the wonders of Oz. He was so preoccupied with his thoughts. "Do you remember the Kalaidas?" the lion asked suddenly, interrupting his reveille. "Of course," replied the Scarecrow, surprised. He, the lion, the Tin Woodman, and Dorothy had almost been killed by the terrifying tiger-headed monsters on the way to the Emerald City, and only the Woodman's quick thinking had saved him. He destroyed the bridge the beasts were crossing, sending them plummeting to their deaths in a ravine below. "I was so afraid of them then," the lion mused. "I couldn't have imagined to kill them, even though they were threatening our lives. But today—" He trailed off. But he didn't have to finish his thought for the Scarecrow to guess what he was getting at. "The wizard's gift is working for you," he said. The lion shrugged. "I suppose so. I've never had to test it before." He looked briefly troubled. "I've never killed anyone before either. It felt strange." "Strange?" The Scarecrow didn't think strange was the right word. Lion was a killer. Scare had read books about beasts, and he knew technically that was something that beasts did, but Lion wasn't like the other beasts, was he? Ginger Soldier had killed the Munchkin girl, and would have killed them, but killing her wasn't any better. Murder was murder, even if it was self-defense. "I don't know if I like the feeling," the lion said, "but it felt different from anything I've ever done. I felt powerful. I suppose that's what courage is. I just never knew before." Scare was sure that wasn't right. In fact, the way Lion said it kind of scared him. "I know I didn't ask for courage," Scare began, preparing to tell him just that. "Maybe you should have," the lion said. "We'll have to do it again." "Do what again?" "Kill people. If you really want your throne back, it won't happen peacefully." The Scarecrow had not thought that far ahead. "There must be another way," he said immediately. But his brain hit a brick wall that did not move. "If there is, you'll have to think of it," the lion said. "You're the one with the brains." The Scarecrow wondered whether his old friend was mocking him, but the lion seemed serious. "This isn't what I wanted at all when I asked for a brain," the Scarecrow said unhappily. "I didn't even ask to be king. I just wanted to be clever. Do you think the wizard's gift led to what's happening now?" The lion swished his tail. "I don't see how," he rumbled. "Perhaps the wizard's gifts are the tools we need to deal with what's coming." "What is coming?" "I don't know," the lion said happily. "But I don't think it's going to be very good."